Welcome to the True Crime Never Sleeps podcast. I'm your host, Larry Lees. On today's episode of Breakout Kings, we dive into Lester Eubanks' escape. First, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Audible, for sponsoring this episode. If you're a fan of audiobooks of any kind of genre, nonfiction, historical fiction, adventure, autobiographies, then you want to check out Audible. For a free audiobook of your choice and a free 30-day trial, head on over to audibletrial.com/Larry21. And as always, if you want to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, just search True Crime Never Sleeps Podcast. And of course, give us a thumbs up if you like our video, subscribe to the channel, be sure to hit that bell notification button to be notified of future videos. To understand the significance of Lester Eubanks' escape, we need to delve further into the crime that led to his imprisonment. On November 14th, 1965, Mary Ellen Diener, a 14-year-old girl, went to a laundromat in Mansfield, Ohio, to wash her family's clothes. She was abducted by Eubanks, who was 22 years old at the time. Eubanks raped her and shot her twice in the head before leaving her body in an abandoned church. Mary Ellen's body was found the next day by a group of children playing in the area. The community was devastated by this heinous crime, and law enforcement was under immense pressure to solve the case. After an intense investigation, Lester Eubanks was arrested and charged with rape and murder. He was convicted and sentenced to death. The sentence was later commuted to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The case drew national attention not only because of the horrific nature of the crime, but also because it highlighted flaws in the criminal justice system. Eubanks was initially held in a facility that was not equipped to house death row inmates, and he was eventually transferred to the Ohio State Penitentiary in Columbus, where he escaped. Mary Ellen Diener's family never got to see justice served, as Eubanks' escape meant he never faced the consequences of his actions. The case also had a lasting impact on the community, who felt let down by the criminal justice system's inability to keep a dangerous criminal behind bars. Eubanks' escape remains one of the most significant and tragic events in Ohio's criminal justice history, I should say. On December 7th, 1973, Lester Eubanks was part of a group of inmates who were allowed to go Christmas shopping at a nearby mall. Don't ask why they were going Christmas shopping when you're stuck in prison for life. But anyways, Eubanks had been serving time at the Ohio State Penitentiary in Columbus, Ohio, since his conviction in 1965. The inmates were given a few hours to shop before returning to the prison. Eubanks was part of a group of 4 inmates, and they were allowed to roam the mall freely. This was a privilege that was granted to well-behaved inmates, and it was meant to encourage good behavior. However, while at the mall, Eubanks saw an opportunity to escape. It's unclear exactly how he was able to slip away from the group, but some sources suggest he was able to get away while the other inmates were distracted. Once Eubanks was out of the mall, he hitchhiked his way out of the city. He was last seen in the Youngstown area a few days later. At the time of his escape, Eubanks was 39 years old and had spent nearly a decade in prison for his crimes. The news of Eubanks' escape sent shockwaves throughout the community, as many people were concerned about the safety of their loved ones. Eubanks was a convicted child killer, and there was a great deal of fear that he would commit more crimes if he was not caught. In the days and weeks following his escape, law enforcement conducted an intense search for Eubanks. They searched the area around the prison, followed up on any leads that came in. However, despite their best efforts, Lester remained at large. One theory is that Eubanks had help from someone on the outside. It's possible that someone may have provided him with transportation or a place to stay after he escaped. There were reports of sightings of Eubanks in various parts of the country, but none of these led to his capture. Another theory is that Eubanks had been planning his escape for a long time. He had been a model prisoner and had taken advantage of the privileges afforded to him. It's possible that he had been biding his time, waiting for the right opportunity to make his escape. The search for Eubanks continues to this day, and law enforcement has not given up hope of finding him. There's a $50,000 reward for information that leads to his capture, and the case remains open. The impact of Eubanks' escape has been significant and left a lasting mark on the victim's family, who have been waiting for justice for over 5 decades. It also raised questions about the effectiveness of the criminal justice system and whether it is capable of keeping dangerous criminals off the streets. Since his escape in 1973, law enforcement has been actively searching for Lester. There have been sightings over the years, but none of them have led to his capture. The case remains open, and there is a reward for information leading to his arrest. One of the challenges in the search for Eubanks is that he has been on the run for so long. He would now be in his 80s, and it's possible that he's changed his appearance, assumed a new identity. Law enforcement has released age progression images of Eubanks to help people recognize him if they see him. Over the years, law enforcement has received tips and leads from people who claim to have seen Eubanks. These sightings have been reported from all over the country, and some have been more credible than others. However, none of them have led to his capture. There have also been reports that Eubanks may have fled the country. It's possible he may have traveled to Canada or Mexico, where he may be living under a false identity. Law enforcement has been working with international agencies to follow up on any leads that suggest that Lester may have left the country. In recent years, there has been renewed interest in the case thanks in part to the power of social media. The Ohio Attorney General's office has been using social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter to share information about the case and to solicit tips from the public. In 2020, the case was featured on the television show In Pursuit with John Walsh, which is hosted by the father of Adam Walsh, who was a child that was abducted and murdered in 1981. The show featured interviews with members of the Diener family and law enforcement officials and encouraged viewers to come forward with any information that could help solve the case. The search for Lester continues to this day, and law enforcement has not given up hope of finding him. There is a sense of urgency in this case as Eubanks is a dangerous criminal who's been on the run for nearly 50 years. The broader community has also been affected by the case. Eubanks' escape has left many people feeling unsafe, particularly parents who worry about the safety of their children. Eubanks was a convicted child killer, and there was a great deal of fear that he would commit more crimes. The case has also raised questions about the effectiveness of the criminal justice system. Eubanks was able to escape from a maximum security prison, but suggests that there were flaws in the system that allowed him to slip away. This has also led to calls for reform and for greater accountability in the criminal justice system. The case has also been a reminder of the importance of keeping dangerous criminals off the streets. His escape for nearly 50 years also underscored the need for better monitoring of inmates and for greater investment in law enforcement. The case has received national attention and has become a symbol of the challenges that law enforcement faces in keeping dangerous criminals behind bars. It also served as a reminder of the need for justice, even in cases where the perpetrator has been at large for decades. As we come to the end of our episode, we hope that this story has shed some light on the story of Lester Eubanks' prison escape. It's been almost 50 years since he escaped, and yet he's still out there living free. The case remains open, and there are people who are working day and night to bring Eubanks to justice. We can only hope that someday justice will be served and the Diener family can find some measure of closure. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Where do you think Lester Eubanks is currently? And do you have any thoughts on this case that we missed or should have covered? Let us know. As always, if you want to support the channel and help make this show even better, buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/TCNS. Your support will help the channel grow, upgrade our equipment, bring new hosts, be able to pay them, create even more shows, better content, and hopefully one day take this show on the road. We'd love to be able to actually live stream from true crime locations across the country, whether it's location of Black Dahlia's murder in Los Angeles, true crime locations on the East Coast, and of course, down here in Dallas, Texas, we can cover Kennedy's assassination. And we can make that happen with your support, whether it's $1, $5, $10, however much you want to give. As always, thank you so much for your support and for listening and watching. We will see you next time.